Here we are. All right, 12-2 podcast.
Yeah.
Kevin and Bud.
Back again.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So,
How was your trip to Tennessee?
trip to Tennessee was good.
Yeah. You went to the
I went
Pigeon,
to Pigeon
Forge.
Totally overrated. Everything's Christmas, and kind of by the way, time you get back home, you're kind of tired of Christmas already.
It's
right?
November. It's not even Thanksgiving yet.
That's right. It's not even Thanksgiving
yeah.
yet. I haven't even turned holiday traditions on my Sirius XM radio yet. Okay.
Okay.
So I haven't even started listening to Christmas music yet. I'm already tired of it because everything there's Christmas. Ugh.
Yeah.
How was your trip to Oklahoma City?
It was long.
Yeah.
It's a
I bet it
long
was.
ways away, but it was
is.
a great trip. It was good to see, of course, our partner in Ukraine, Vitaly, his oldest daughter, got married.
Already? Good gracious.
yes.
She was just a...
Not anymore.
little kid
She's
last time
grown
we saw
up.
her. Oh, my
but
goodness.
it was quite an interesting contrast because you had this Slavic family, which, and they were out of, most of Vitaly's family, or all of Vitaly's family's out of California. So you had these Ukrainians, and of course they were dressed up, in their suits and nice dresses.
Right. Yeah,
and then
yeah.
you had the groom side, which was all Oklahoma, so it was all cowboy hats, snap shirts, and Wrangler jeans. So it was it was really cool. It was
So I want to know. Everybody wants to know out there what did you sport that day? How did you dress? What were
I
you?
was in a suit.
You were in a suit.
Suit and tie.
Yeah.
Last time I wore that suit was for a wedding, my daughter's wedding. So
Wow.
it's been worn twice
About
now.
that. Yeah, twice. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So So I was in a suit.
Well,
so.
you probably got a couple more weddings coming along.
Yeah. At least two, hopefully.
Hopefully no more than that among
Right.
your kids. Right. Yeah, but anyway, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So but that's great. So maybe you should, let's do a little plug for Vitaly, Open Door Foundation.
Yeah, which, as you know, if you've watched the 12-2 podcast, he did come on and interview and tell us about his ministry, but they are headed back to Ukraine now after I think he's been in the States fundraising since August, but him and his family are headed back, and, it's... I know the news, there's I think I saw where they estimate that there's probably been, what was it, like 300,000 Ukrainians who've been killed or casualties, that's wounded and killed, and then something like some numbers between 500 and 700,000 Russians casualties that's wounded and killed. And, they are walking back into just a devastating situation. And even after the war ends, and I'm hopeful with, of course, the change in administration of our country, and that this war,
and Putin wanting to talk, right,
so, that this war will come to an end sooner rather than later,
right.
But after that happens, that's when you start picking up the pieces of broken lives, and they're going to be dealing with kids that no longer have families, cities that are no longer exist. From what I understand, the East has been utterly devastated and destroyed. Major cities in the East are just wiped off the map. But you also have, the PTSD that's going to be there. Men coming back from the front lines, trying to assimilate back into, normal life and with families, and they recognize that. Vitaly and Natalie Smolin recognize that, and they are looking towards that and are in process of preparation.
Good.
They have purchased land and with the hopes of building a facility that they would be able to have their camps for kids, and then even possibly orphanage. And I know that their jacket ministry, where they are manufacturing jackets, coats, is going strong. In fact, in the back of my truck, I have a 6 or 7 that I'm supposed to give to somebody around here. Okay. So that's continuing to go. So if you think about it, pray for the Smolin family. They have a overwhelming ministry, but there's an overwhelming need, and they're and they're sold out to helping as many as they can, and touching lives for Christ there in Ukraine. And they're going to have a tremendous opportunity to show the love of Christ in the coming years.
Oh yeah.
And so anyway,
what I know this about them, and obviously you know this much better than I do, but I can just tell, knowing them as I do, going back over. Most missionaries would be saying, "Gosh, I got to go back over there." They're saying, "Hey, we get to go back over there."
Yeah.
That's Vitaly and Natalia. That's their attitude. I get to go back over there. You know, total difference in perspective, right? And you captured it well when you described that.
And I know personally, I'm hoping maybe myself and maybe Kim get the opportunity to go back over in January, February.
Oh, good, right?
Yeah. So we're trying to work that out right now. So. Yeah. Anyway, stay tuned for
that'll be great.
Which will be it'll be a neat experience in the fact for me, because the last time I was there was
right before
it was January,
2
weeks before Russia invaded the whole of the country. So anyway,
I really remember that.
So yeah, it'll be kind of interesting to compare and contrast.
Hope that works out for you.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
And something else happened, right? I mean, something else has happened with us, right? We're seeking that viral moment. It wasn't the viral moment necessarily, but it was a milestone.
Yes, it was. Yeah. We got banned on TikTok.
Man.
It only took two.
Second download.
Two downloads. Or I don't know what they are.
And
we got banned on the second one, which is I wear that as a badge of honor.
Yeah.
So if you're on TikTok, look for us, 122 Podcast.
But we're back on.
Because
Mr. Producer intervened for us.
Right. He did whatever you do.
Whatever you do.
With the TikTok. So so hey, if the communist Chinese want to help us expand our reach,
there you go.
More power to them. We'll take it.
I think we really got banned because we were making sense. I think that's why we got banned.
Probably telling
that's not part of their protocol. Right?
No. That probably messes the algorithm up a little bit when you probably speak or question something that if you make the right answer, it might go against the narrative, the accepted narrative. So,
it is. So let's talk a little bit about what do we see in the reaction now with the in the wake of the election, right? The post, all the post activities, and we're seeing the movements, and you hear about this 4B thing.
Oh
right?
My word!
Is that not crazy or what?
It's just mind blowing.
I
mean, and for those of you who don't know what the 4B movement is, what is it? Women are going to swear off relationships with men.
Yeah, no sexual
intercourse,
no babies,
marriage, no engagement, no nothing.
No nothing.
So
and
then I mean
they're going to wear their blue liberal bracelet
and shave their head.
And shave their heads.
Yeah. So I mean, you can go on any social media and see if they're not screaming in their car about how rough their life is, then they're shaving their head and saying that they're not going to have sex with men, which I'm just going to be honest, should cut down on the number of necessary abortions.
Yes, it should.
So, I mean, I don't know. They're not really punishing us.
I mean, no, not really. Not really.
Yeah. And speaking of that, I mean, well, I won't go there.
Well, this movement, actually, South Korea is a pretty solid country, right?
Correct.
A lot of Christians there, and that's really where this whole thing started. Some university professor. All these things start with university professors. Why do we pay money to send our kids to places?
I don't know, because professors live in that. There's a reason why they call it the ivory tower, because most of these people have never worked an honest day work in their life. They've never had to sign the front of a check. They never had to make payroll.
Sure.
They just get their that their paycheck comes and they get to spout
the ultimate entitlement.
Right. And they get to, sit there and navel gaze and then tell us how things should be, and it doesn't matter whether it works or not. It's just because it doesn't really have to work in academia like it does in the real world.
Yeah. The people, and we got a few people in that world in our church who are very down to earth, very authentic, and they are the ones who are, they're the countercultural ones.
Oh, yeah.
In their university. There's no question about it. And they, very proud of them for the way that they have stood
standing against the tide.
Yes, exactly. And we have folks in music and education, foreign studies and stuff, who work in the, and they're fabulous. They're wonderful.
But yeah, this thing
standing
started
against
in
that.
South Korea.
Yeah, it did.
University professor.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago. And the reason the 4 Bs, it's 4 Korean words that relate to those 4 things
Right.
that they're going to deprive the world of. And again, South Korea is a pretty cool country. I mean,
Yeah.
you kind of.
I mean, my sister was living there for several years, but
And my new best friend is South Korean.
Oh, really?
Yeah, last week I was flying a red eye from Phoenix, and picked me up at the hotel around 11 p.m. Phoenix time, and he didn't speak a whole lot of English. His name was Sang, and or Song, something like that, and he was asking me about my family. I said, "What's your oldest kid?" I said, "He's 36." He said, "No, you don't have a 36-year-old. You look too young for that." And I said, "You are my new best friend."
Thank you.
You're my new best friend.
What's amazing is they had that movement, the 4B movement, starting in South Korea, and now they're looking at a population collapse because because of that. They're nowhere near the replacement number to maintain the population. What are they like at less than 1 per couple? I think it is.
Oh,
right
are
now.
they really?
Yeah. It
shows how I guess powerful and disruptive that feminist movement is.
Yes,
in
it
that
is
country.
tremendously. This idea that, well, and it's even spread over into the U.S.
Well, but it's picking up momentum now.
Right.
Because people are doing it in response to Trump being elected.
Right.
And so,
this idea that somehow we can come together as a married couple and then on purposely decide that we do not want to have children because, of whatever, it's selfishly motivated, of course,
for sure.
and it's to take and just put, so I can go out to eat when I want to, I can do all these things that I want to, yet you never experience the joy of creating a family.
Yeah, the
and I
fulfillment.
understand. I mean, having children, it is.
what was that little for?
Well,
same reason that I would do it. Right?
Yeah. It's not all puppies and roses.
We do love y'all. We really do.
It's
But
not all puppies and roses and stuff. And like I think I told you last week, when you have children, it's like your heart's walking on the outside.
Yeah.
It's
all the time.
Yeah. It's the best thing and the hardest thing at the same time.
It is.
But but what's very interesting is, I went to a funeral the other week, and it was, it was sad because, they had made a decision not to have children, and of course had gone through their life, and he had died at 86, but there was hardly anyone there.
Yeah.
And I compared and contrasted that to a funeral that I'd been to like 4 weeks earlier of a guy that I'd gone to school with. His mother had passed away, and it was like an hour line, and when I left, it was still an hour line.
Going.
Yeah, and she had of course, children and grandchildren, and the family, and they were heavily involved in a Bible believing church, and you just saw that community come together,
Right,
and it was
right.
just to compare and contrast those two. Basically, what I would say is if you're single, get married. If you're married, have you some kids. And if you have you some kids, get in church.
Well, the thing, so true, Kevin, and push them there, and don't be apologetic for it. Right?
No, definitely not.
A couple of the most enjoyable times that Tammy and I, that I've had, and I think Tammy too would say this, ironically, and this is really weird because both of our fathers have passed away, and you and Kim both have yours still here, right?
Right.
Blessing,
Yeah.
right? And you're talking about the hour long, the long procession through.
Right.
I enjoyed that so much because we experienced that twice: 4 hours with my father-in-law, 3 hours with my dad.
Right.
And it was full. It was just coming and coming and coming, and that was so precious and so much fun for me because I like people, right?
Right. You're definitely a people person.
I didn't like the occasion, but what I enjoyed about it was the tribute that it demonstrated to both men, and I
Right.
realized that tribute was not only to them as individuals, but also to the rest of the family, to the children,
Right.
right,
Right.
the in-laws,
Right.
and so those were two moments in my life that really demonstrate what you're talking about.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's something, as I've gotten I've passed the 50-year mark.
And happy birthday yesterday,
Oh yeah,
by the way.
yeah. Thanks, I appreciate it.
53.
53. Yeah.
Oh,
53.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Wow, I remember your 50th birthday party.
Yeah. So, but you start, thinking a little bit about it, and you think. You think about like your dad, because I remember being at that.
Yeah, you were
and then
there. I remember seeing you.
Yeah,
You
and
your
then
family, sure.
of course the other funeral that I went to of this lady. You think about, that's a testament to the impact that
Yeah.
they had
Sure.
during their life.
Yeah.
Even no matter if the person was showing up in support of you or showing up in support of another one of your
Yeah, it doesn't
siblings,
matter,
it doesn't
right?
matter. It
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
all about what your dad, the impact that he had
Yeah.
on lives
Right.
more than him. It was
Right.
it was a life lived outside of himself.
Right. Exactly. And
Which is, we should, especially as believers, we should aspire to.
we really should.
Yeah.
What does it say about the full quiver in the Psalms, right?
Well,
yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, and number doesn't matter, but a willingness to,
Yeah.
to be obedient
Right.
to
right.
the first command God gave human beings: be fruitful and multiply.
Absolutely. I mean,
so-
that was pretty early in the game, wasn't
Yes, I think it's what, Genesis 2.
it? Yeah. Yeah. Pretty
think it is.
doggone early. Yeah.
Yeah.
As soon as he, pretty much as soon as he
they
created
created 'em.
man or women, told him what to do.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Don't worry about washing the clothes. Just,
Right.
Of course, it didn't matter then, but you know how that goes. Yeah. So some of the reactions that we're seeing to the election is just kind of crazy.
And Trump is not waiting. He has
No.
jumped on,
No.
and he is putting forth his agenda and
Yeah.
putting the people. I think he learned his lesson from the first go round in 2016. The people that it looks like he's putting into place for his cabinet, and by the time this comes out, he will probably announced more people for his cabinet. But it looks like the number one thing he's looking for is loyalty, loyalty to him. He's not. He doesn't want to get stabbed in the back like the last go round.
And he sure did, didn't
Yeah,
he? He really did.
So he wants the agenda that he's putting forth, especially I think the economic agenda, the his peace through strength agenda, and his border control agenda. Those things are a priority, and I think he's putting people in place that will carry those things out.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's you got to kind of look at it, and like you say, you've got to realize the loyalty part before you recognize it. Because some of the appointments are like, really?
Yeah.
Until you recognize what he's trying to do, and then you just got to roll with it. I mean, president with that type of margin in
Right.
the electorate.
I mean, not only the Electoral College 312, but also the popular vote, and then to have.
Tremendously.
Then I think it was today, and we're talking on a Thursday. Today it was official that the House is going to be officially
It's gonna be-
Republican.
yeah.
Yeah. Though he does keep taking out Republicans and putting them in his cabinet.
Yeah.
So, I
Yeah.
mean, there's going to be some elections there, but I'm sure that they're coming from safe
They are.
space.
You're
It's
kinda
safe
looking at where
Republicans.
they're coming from.
Yeah.
Coming
Yeah.
from pretty solid,
Solid areas.
red areas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
So, well, even some of the other reaction too, we see, manufacturing companies moving their stuff back to the States
Right.
already, almost right after. And I think
Yeah.
we might have talked about that. I don't know if we talked about that in our last podcast.
I don't know.
but,
No, I don't. I
that's
don't remember.
happening.
But you already saw that he's already been talking with Israel and and Hezbollah and there to work something out. And
Yeah, and
then
Hamas wants
I
to
think
talk.
one of the members of the royal family in Saudi Arabia said, "Hey, we're ready to finish this whole peace deal that he had
Right.
gotten started and
That's gonna be
working on."
huge. Yeah.
And I think so it'll be interesting and like I said last time, I truly believe it was a reprieve. So
Yeah.
with that reprieve is going to come probably an economic upturn.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's already starting.
Yeah, and so with that, again, I heard somebody talking today. We as Christians have an opportunity here, even if it's a positive economic turn. I mean, to grow our businesses.
Yeah.
You
Sure.
know,
Absolutely.
to start a business, maybe to be able to invest, to be able to put ourselves on a solid footing, to be able to put our churches on solid financial footings during this time, so that because I don't know what's going to happen
Right.
after this,
Right,
But
right.
it is definitely an opportunity, and it's an opportunity to experience God's blessing, and then like like the guy who was given the 5 talents. This might be our 5 talent.
Maybe. Yeah.
Let's not squander it.
We have to look at it that way, don't we?
Yeah. Let's not waste it. Let's start doing some things for the kingdom.
Yeah.
And that includes, our finances. That includes our businesses. That includes our, the decisions that we make on investment. That includes the charities we support, the churches we support, the ministries we support. So if we're going into a time of hopefully economic growth, we need to take advantage of that as believers to set ourselves in a position to further the kingdom of God.
And we just saw 2 political campaigns that were wild and crazy amounts of money, like $1 billion on the Vice President Harris's side,
and $488 million for Trump.
Yeah.
So she outspent him over 2-1.
Yeah, and still wound up $20 million in debt.
$20 million in debt.
What's $20 million when you're talking about
a billion,
right? But anyway. But the point of the matter is, we're in an age where money drives everything. And It's just the way that we don't like it, right? I don't like it that there was $1.5 billion spent on the campaigns, but it is where we are. And that same money that fuels the campaigns fuels the ministry of the church and the mission of the church. Right. So everything you're saying is an encouragement, I think, to those who follow Jesus to do all you can to maximize your own wealth in order to fund the movement of the kingdom of God. And that's really what that has to be about. That is a part, as we talk about capitalism and being through the parable of the talents, the demonstration of the fact that is the biblical form of the economy.
Right.
We use that, and even then, it is to use that funding to share the gospel and to
be able to do ministry. I think of abortion, of course, is a big deal to us, and we believe that that is murder.
Sure.
So what can we do as individuals to help somebody who's facing that choice?
Right. Yeah.
You now have an opportunity if you're financially successful and to be able to give some money to ministries like that. You are able to, if you're financially secure, you're able to support your church, who will hopefully have ministries that reach out and help people in that situation, or who teach the next generation that marriage is sacred, and that's where you have a family.
Exactly.
Is within the bounds of marriage. That's what we need.
And you use the term reprieve. We've got a time period here. We've got 4 years. And the last 4 years, things were very different than they were in the previous 4 years, right?
Exactly.
Economically. Okay. And we don't know how long this is going to last. You use the term reprieve. And that makes every sense in the world, reprieve. That's what we've got. And the church has been given a reprieve.
I believe it has. And so I think that, we need to take advantage of it.
Yeah. So what do you think is going to happen next on the national scene? I mean, what are we looking at? What are we thinking?
Well, I have no.
Is it going to get crazy? Or
I think it's going to get crazy.
In what way? What do
I think first of all that I look at I know Biden and Harris and their administration are trying to quote Trump-proof, keep him from being able to accomplish his agenda. I know that there are people who are rushing to the border to try to get across. So I think that there's going to be a push on both of those sides. Spend all the money that we can for our pet projects, and then you're going to see a push at the border to get as many people across as possible. I don't know how successful that's going to be, of course. And then you're going to see the next fight line up, and it's going to be mostly about these cabinet appointments that he's made. You're going to see, people trying to score points instead of, you're going to see Democrats trying to score points. But it's probably, it's going to take off. And, once I think Christmas gets past and we walk into January and February, we're going to be looking at a different world because he's going to shut the border down within weeks of walking in.
Do you expect any social unrest? I'm kind of surprised we haven't seen any yet. I'm glad that we haven't.
I don't think so. I really don't think so. I think people people who are looking at social unrest were hoping that they would be able to do it under the guise of, well, he's illegitimate because he didn't get the popular vote.
Right.
And it was such a smackdown. I think that it's taken all their power or all their enthusiasm and just out. It's like the air went out of the balloon, basically. And, I'm seeing, of course, so let's be honest. The guys that are all upset, they're crying on their podcasts and crying on their late night television shows.
Yeah.
That doesn't inspire, let me go out and burn something down.
Yeah,
I mean,
really.
let's be honest. And then on the other side, you have these young it's all ages of women who are just going, who are saying we're not going to have sex anymore and
Right,
shaving
yeah,
their heads.
same thing.
And I don't think that inspires people to go down and let me risk, jail or getting hit by a baton while I smash windows and steal things.
It's pretty fatalistic, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not. It's like the fight is out.
Out of them. Yeah.
And so here's a question I wondered about. You see the electoral maps now and kind of the blue, red, and it's just. I was showing one to my wife at lunch today.
Yeah.
Obviously, 90+% shows up at the counties in red, and probably
Of course.
95% or whatever.
Yeah.
And yet that demonstrates the population disparity in the big cities.
Right.
And we also know that some voters are informed voters, right?
Right.
I think we're blessed, and we have a church of largely informed voters. But what percentage would you estimate, and this might be the last thing we get to talk about a little bit today, it's a little bit of a risky area. When we look at the urban areas that are large and then the rural areas, which are, we'll see a lot of the red, what percentage of voters in those areas as a whole do you think would be informed versus uninformed? I have no idea.
I don't know.
It just popped in my mind
Yeah.
today, that question, and I know we haven't talked about it. This is just first
Yeah.
time throwing it out
Yeah.
at you. Maybe it's just something to think about.
What's interesting is the closer you get to a coast, the more liberal the voter becomes.
Right.
And then the closer you get to a population center, a big city,
The more
liberal
they're gonna be.
They're going to be. And the closer you get to a university, the more liberal they're going to be.
Yeah.
So, if you think of something, if you think of the Northeast, they're close to the coast. There's a lot of big cities there.
Yes.
And then there are a lot of, institutes of higher learning,
Right,
universities.
right.
And so that's why you end up with a lot of blue. And I think
Not a lot of blue. It's more disproportionate, but you'd be surprised at
Right.
how much red still shows there.
But I think a lot of it has to do with, if you're in a rural area, let's just be honest. If you're in a rural area and you're a farmer,
right.
okay, it takes, and let's say you're a cattleman or whatever, you're raising cows, pretty much off the bat that it takes a boy cow and a girl cow to get little cows. And so you just don't have time.
You see God's truth of
Right,
biology right before you every
your
day.
eyes. You don't have time to go, well, maybe if I put lipstick on the bull, it can have a calf. It just doesn't work that way. Yeah,
Right.
when you're in the city, when you're in a city, you're disconnected from a lot of that.
Yeah.
And so you might go, well, if you put lipstick on a dude, maybe he can play girls volleyball. I don't know.
Maybe he could even get pregnant and bear a child, right? I mean,
yeah. Which next time we'll have to talk about there is it's the triple L of GB, and it stands for something, but it encourages women with breastfeeding, and they've lost some of their members because they're wanting to now include men. But anyway, that's a topic for another time.
I heard a great quote. I heard a great
Okay.
quote earlier. It was simply that the ultimate power is to make people believe something that is so utterly unbelievable And that is
That
the ultimate power.
Yeah, and that's what the progressive
really
side
good
is.
point. Yeah,
But
for
anyway,
sure.
well, we appreciate you hanging out with us and
Yeah, we
listening
do.
to us.
Really
Please
do.
like us, give us a 5-star rating, tell your friends,
Yeah.
and check us out on TikTok.
And
Maybe we'll get
remember-
banned again.
Maybe so. Hey, and remember, we are totally unscripted, so if we screw up, hey, it's not our fault, right?
Anyway, have a great one.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.